What is going on, everyone? My name is Josh Frink, your favorite professional Pokemon TCG player, back here today to go over the winning list from the Lima special event. It just took place in Peru earlier today. Assuming this video gets out when I want it to get out, it'll have been maybe just over 6 hours since the event ended. And of course, nobody on the channel should be surprised. It was won by Terapagos Dusknoir. Now, it's not the exact same list that we featured on the channel before. This one was won by Giovanny Sasso. Pretty similar list to what we've been seeing take off. It's not exactly what I was playing before, but we've seen a lot of these 4-4 Noctowl 101 Pidgeot lists seeing a good amount of success. So today we're going to be covering the list that won and talking about some of the differences in the list. We're also trying out something new. If you like this view better for going over the deck list so that we can kind of blow up the cards that we're talking about, please let me know in the comments down below, because I'll keep doing it this way. But yeah, I want to, before we get started with the list, I do want to point out something. Some of you may recognize Giovanni's name. He was able to get second place at the Joinville Regional last weekend with a very similar 60, but unfortunately due to a deck error, we did have to change the one copy of Briar to a fourth Buddy Poffin. For the sake of the video today, we're going to be playing with 4 Buddy Poffin, but just know that the intention behind the list for this event was to play a copy of Briar. Sometimes stuff like this happens, and honestly, it's even more impressive that Giovanny was able to take down the tournament without a Briar in his deck. It just goes to show how powerful, right, the turtle deck is. So let's get right into it. Terapagos EX, the star of the show. It's a Terra Pokemon, a Stellar Terra Pokemon to be exact. That unified beatdown attack, 30 times the number of benched Pokemon that you have in play. For 2 colorless energy, obviously that is fulfilled by the double turbo energy. We have a 4-4 line of Noctowl, the ability Jewel Seeker, which says that when you have a Terra Pokemon in play, if you play this card from your hand to evolve one of your Hoothoots, you may search your deck for any trainer cards. That's supporters, items, stadiums, whatever you might need. Very, very, very powerful search card. We've got a 2-3 line of the Curse Blast Dusknoir. This is now our 3rd video covering Dusknoir on this channel. Dusknoir is an absolute powerhouse in the metagame right now. Just an absurdly strong ability, right? Being able to knock yourself out, force your opponent to take prizes, and then placing 13 damage counters so you can accelerate both your opponent's as well as your own game is pretty strong, right? Especially in tandem with things like Counter Catcher, with things like Briar, which, you know, isn't in the list today, but still incredibly strong, even paired with something like Iono, right? Which forces your opponent to draw less cards if you make them take a prize. So very, very strong. We do still have the Pidgeot EX in here, a 101 line. Realistically speaking, you only ever need 1 Pidgeot throughout a game. Most of the 202 lists, it's insurance against prizing, insurance against it getting knocked out, so that you can get those things back more easily. But we'll cover a card in the list that kind of replaces that in just a little bit here. We do have 2 copies of Fan Rotom. Obviously, Fan Rotom is the thing, the glue that makes the whole deck work. On your first turn, that Fan Call ability allows you to search your deck for up to 3 colorless Pokemon with 100 HP or less. That's Hoothoot, that's Noctowl, that's Pidgey. It's Fan Rotom as well. You know, if you're just trying to thin it out of your deck, it can be quite good to get yourself another Fan Rotom as well. We have 1 copy of the Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX. This is just an alternative attacker to the Terapagos. It does a little bit more damage, being able to crucially one-shot that Raging Bolt EX, as well as some of the 230 HP Pokemon. We do have another way to do that in this version of the list as well, but we can also attack for free with Ursaluna thanks to that Seasoned Skill ability. The Blood Moon attack costs 1 colorless less for each prize card your opponent has taken, and obviously we are able to push that prize race a little bit further using Dusknoir, which is just incredibly, incredibly strong. We also have Fezandipiti EX. By this point, if you're not familiar with Fezandipiti, you need to be following the metagame because this card has changed the way the game works fundamentally. Flip the script. Once during your turn, if any of your Pokemon were knocked out, you may draw 3 cards. It's a lot of cards. That's a lot of cards. In a deck like this where you need a lot of different combo pieces, having access to more draw is incredibly strong. So Fezandipiti is an incredibly powerful card in this deck, as it is in many others. Now moving on to the supporters, we do have 3 copies of Iono. Each player shuffles their hand and puts it on the bottom of their deck. If either player put any cards on the bottom of their deck in this way, each player draws a card for each of their remaining prizes. As I said, you know, this is a card that is incredibly powerful draw in the early game, incredibly powerful disruption in the late game. It's just a very, very strong card right now, and especially paired with Dusknoir, it can do some very strong work into many different matchups. We are playing 2 copies of Professor's Research, which lets you discard your hand and draw 7. Again, in a combo-heavy deck like this, when you just need to see a bunch of cards, there's no better option than Professor's Research. We are playing 1 copy of Thorton. This is what I was talking about a little bit with the less fear of your Pidgeot getting knocked out. Thorton allows you to choose a basic Pokemon on your bench, switch it with a basic Pokemon in your discard pile. So if your Pidgeot gets knocked out, you can Thorton your Fan Rotom into Pidgey, you can Night Stretcher for the Pidgeot EX, and get it right back into play. Thorton allows for a lot of very interesting plays. You can get Hoothoot back, you can get Ursaluna back. If you fill your bench turn 1, you can discard a Terapagos and Thorton it into play to activate Noctowl and Area 0. The amount of things that you can do with Thorton is really, really incredible. And one of the primary issues actually with Thorton is that a lot of the times, the turn that you want to use Thorton, you would also want to use Briar. And this list doesn't have Briar currently, so you don't really have that conflict of interest very often. Thorton all around a very, very strong card. We have 1 copy of Boss's Orders. Simply a Gust, switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active spot. Makes a lot of sense, right? Very, very strong. In a lot of our matchups, we're going to try and go for a 2-2-2 prize map, and Boss's Orders makes that way easier. So very, very powerful there as well. On to our ball search, we've got 4 copies of Buddy Poffin, allowing us to search our deck for 2 Pokemon with 70 HP or less and put them onto our bench. Duskull, Hoothoot, Rotom, Pidgey, all 70 HP or less, so very strong consistency card there. We have 4 copies of Nest Ball, which lets us search our deck for any basic Pokemon and put it onto our bench. So the only 3 things that we get with this that we don't get with the Buddy Poffin are the Terapagos, the Ursaluna, and the Fezandipiti, but those are 3 of the more important things to get, right? But it can also get you all of the cards that Buddy Poffin can as well. We do play 3 copies of Ultra Ball, which is how we are going to be able to search out our evolution Pokemon, Dusknoir, Pidgeot, and Noctowl. We play the 1 copy of Feather Ball to get Pidgeot EX. It's very, very good combo, being able to go Noctowl for Candy Feather Ball and just go right into that Pidgeot. 4 copies of Rare Candy. Obviously, that's how we get to Dusknoir. It's how we get to Pidgeot, so it's a very important card in here as well. We are playing 3 copies of Night Stretcher, which allows us to get back one of our Pokemon from our discard pile. We can't get back an energy in this deck because we don't play basic energy, but being able to recycle our Dusknoirs, recycle our Noctowls, which oftentimes are the things that we are going to discard once our Area 0 gets bumped, is very, very good. We are playing 1 copy of Energy Loto as well. Energy Loto is a very cool inclusion in the deck, opting not to play the Colress's Experiment, opting instead to play Energy Loto. It allows your Noctowl to search out an energy card theoretically. It can miss, but it's not a supporter. It doesn't activate Kyurem, so it's still pretty solid comparatively. Our ace backup choice is that Prime Catcher, a Switch and a Gust all in one. Again, incredibly strong. Gust in this deck is very, very good. Speaking of Gust, we do play 1 copy of Counter Catcher, which is item Gust so long as you're behind. And as per usual, Dusknoir can force us behind on prizes pretty easily, so this card can be quite strong. We do play 1 copy of Switch. I know some people have been playing the Turo instead of the Switch to be able to reuse Noctowls, and also against Control and Stall. Turo can't be removed by Airy or by Misfortune Sisters, but Giovanny choosing to rock with the Switch, it doesn't cost your supporter for turn. Again, it seems like Giovanni's sort of deck building ethos here was avoiding accomplishing tasks with supporters when we can accomplish them with item cards. So that's why we see the Energy Loto on the Switch here. We are seeing that 1 copy of Vitality Band. The more that the Terapagos Mirror becomes popular, the more hitting that 230 number is going to be significant, and so that Vitality Band allowing Terapagos to hit for 230 is very, very powerful. It's helpful in other places as well. Allows you to one-shot Iron Hands EX, allows you to one-shot Roaring Moon EX, both valuable in my opinion. And then we do have the 3 Area 0 Underdepths, which says so long as there's a Terra Pokemon in play, you can have up to 8 Pokemon on your bench, which is how we spike to that 220 number with Terapagos EX. And then 4 double turbo energy right here as well to use the Unified Beatdown attack. We're trying to win the game once again in 3 turns, and so having DTE as a way to attack is just very, very good. We have 1 extra one than we will probably need, but playing 3 opens you up to a lot of, let's say, unsavory situations where you may bench or not bench, prize some energy, which you really don't want to do. And playing 4 also makes it more likely that you'll hit the Energy Loto. So yeah, that's the list. It's not too different from what we played on the channel before, but there's a lot of interesting inclusions in here that are going to make the deck different, right? That Thorton, the Energy Loto, the Vitality Band as well. You know, having more access to Noctowl and less access to Pidgeot is going to make the deck play a little bit differently as well. So I'm excited to see how this list specifically differs. So let's go ahead and get right into some games. All right, starting off the game here against Tom. We do win the coin flip here. We get the tails, so we are going to be able to go first. Exactly what we want to do with this deck. Let's see if we can get a Fan Rotom in this opening hand to be able to play. We do get the Buddy Poffin, which is good enough. The rest of the hand isn't too great. We don't currently have access to Terapagos EX. And it looks like we are against the Dragapult. So having the Buddy Poffin here is quite good. We're probably going to be able to get a Duskull into play this turn. We also have a mulligan to work with, so hopefully we can get a little bit closer to that Terapagos EX. If we are able to get a Terapagos EX for the second turn, we'll probably be able to do quite a lot. Depending on how aggressive of a start our opponent has. We'll take the mulligan. We do get Iono. Iono doesn't necessarily get us the Terapagos, but it'll get us closer if we need it. And then there's the Nest Ball, right? So that will get it for us. We can go ahead and grab Fan Rotom as well as a Duskull. I'm going to go ahead and Fan Call. We're going to grab a Hoothoot. We are going to grab a Noctowl as well as a Pidgey here. I'm probably going to Nest Ball for the Terapagos here as well, just because they can't really pressure us on that first turn. I should have checked my prizes. The Pidgeot is in there, so we're not too worried about that. Looks like we got both our research. Is our boss in hand? Nope, so boss is prized. We got all of those. We do have 1 Nest Ball prized. Looks like 1 stadium. Yep, we have a stadium prized. Maybe a Night Stretcher as well. Yeah, nothing crazy here. At least not anything crazy for the time being. I think I do want to save the Energy Loto. I think it's a lot more likely that they're going to go ahead and Arven this turn than it is that they would go for something like Iono. So I don't necessarily feel compelled to look for that energy right now. We can go ahead and pass. We do have the switch, so if that Dreepy stays in the active, we'll be able to kill that at least with the Terapagos next turn, and then we can use the Noctowl to try and go for a Dusknoir and KO a second Dreepy as well. If we're able to do that, I think generally speaking, the game is going to be pretty okay. We can also leave the Dusknoir in play if we want to. If they get more than 2 Dreepy into play, if we leave the Dusknoir out, they'll have to chase it down with the Dragapult. It's not always a great play, but it kind of depends on what you have else on the bench. Not looking like they have too much instantly, but maybe the hand is just a little complex. Yeah, they do have the Arven. Gonna be able to at least go for probably like, I don't know, maybe like Nest Ball, Forest Seal to get that Rotom, as well as the Buddy Poffin, depending on what's in their hand. That generally seems like a solid play. I don't know that you necessarily want to give me an easy 2-prize knockout this turn, but you definitely need to establish some Dreepies. I would imagine that getting some card draw as well is going to be pretty helpful. You don't really need to get that Sparkling Crystal here. You don't really need to get Rescue Board, but it does look like they choose to. I wonder if that means that they've got the Forest Seal Stone in their hand. They do play the Heavy Ball. I assume that means they check their prizes and know that there is a Pokemon in there. Typically speaking, if there's not a Pokemon in there, you would rather save the Heavy Ball as a discard off of like Vessel or Ultra Ball. But yeah, it looks like they do have a Dreepy there. Knowing that, I wonder if that means that they're going to Nest Ball for the Rotom. They do play the Nest Ball. Let's see. Yep, there's the Rotom. Do you have the Forest Seal Stone in your hand? It could be prized as well. Nope, there's the Forest Seal Stone. Just like we predicted, right? All of their actions make a lot more sense when you just can predict everything that they're doing. Probably this is going to be a Buddy Poffin as well. Yep, Buddy Poffin comes down. I would imagine they're going to get another Dreepy here, as well as a Natu. Okay, a little bit punished for not playing the Dusclops in this list, seeing that Natu, but there's no Duskull on their side of the board either, which generally speaking is good for us. So we're going to go ahead ahead and play the Noctowl here. I think we'll evolve the active for the time being. We do want a Noctowl before Energy Loto because that does thin these cards out of our deck. We'll go ahead and go Feather Ball, Rare Candy. I guess I could Ultra Ball instead of grabbing Feather Ball here and just get a secondary candy for that Dusknoir. I actually think I like that a little bit more. We can Ultra Ball the Ursaluna as well as the Counter Catcher relatively easily. We're planning on going pretty far ahead here, so I feel pretty confident that this is a fine play. Go ahead and get rid of that Counter Catcher. We will grab the Pidgeot here. We are going to Rare Candy into Pidgeot. Well, yeah, I guess it doesn't necessarily matter the order on that one, but yeah, we'll Rare Candy into Pidgeot, we'll Rare Candy into Dusknoir. We will go ahead and play the Energy Loto. We do find a double turbo, which is great. We can attach that to our Terapagos. We can switch into the Pidgeot, and then we can go for that Iono here. Technically speaking, we could have popped the Dusknoir first as a way to lower our opponent's hand size, but I don't think it's too important in this specific scenario. We're gonna go ahead and quick search for the stadium here, try and set up a few more Duskulls, maybe another Hoothoot. One Duskull isn't necessarily great though. It's all we've got, so we're just gonna get the one Duskull. It does mean that if they get the attack off this turn, they're gonna be able to kill the Duskull, which isn't necessarily great, but it's fine. We're probably going to end up knocking out this Natu here with our own Cursed Blast. I do think that that's probably worth it. I don't want them to have easy energy acceleration. We want them to be forced to use that crystal. Plus, we could potentially draw the Duskull off of the prizes here. We could also draw something like a Night Stretcher, which we know is prized. We do get the Fezandipiti. I think that's a pretty solid one as well. Don't really need to do anything else this turn. I could play the Noctowl as a way to get a second Duskull. It does force them to find a Gust to KO both of them. I do think that's probably worth it because then next turn we may be able to KO this Dragapult if they do get it off. So we're going to go ahead and grab a Night Stretcher. We may as well grab a Nest Ball too, just to go ahead and grab a second of those Terapagos. We don't necessarily want it in play this turn though, although it does kind of bait them into playing a little bit wonky. So we'll Night Stretcher for the Duskull. We'll definitely put Duskull into play, and we will Nest Ball for a second Terapagos. If they do choose to put damage on the Terapagos, it means that they're not putting damage on our Duskulls, which ultimately kind of sounds like a win to me. So we'll Unified Beatdown. We will take the KO on this Dreepy, go down to 4 prizes. This is a situation where we're not necessarily happy that we don't have access to Briar. If we had Briar on the following turn and they take, let's say, 2 prizes here, we could do something like Dusknoir pop and then KO a Rotom with Briar as a way to finish off the game. But looks like they do have that Fezandipiti, so we could just finish the game by going Gust Gust. Both of which seem like fine plays. I would expect them to be able to attack here. There's a Dracloak going on to the bench. They did bench another Natu as well. Looks like it helped a little bit that we were able to get rid of that. But yeah, there's the Dragapult. So I would imagine that they're looking for something like Arven. They can go ahead and grab... Nope, there's the Psychic Energy. So really all they need now is a Sparkling Crystal. There's a Radiant Charizard. Radiant Charizard is a little bit scary. It's a 1-prizer. That we can pretty easily get knocked out by, but we do have the Ursaluna to play around it a little bit, but especially if they can put some residual damage onto our Ursaluna, it's not that big of a deal. They are going to bench the Manaphy and then go for the Iono, which I think makes sense. They're really just looking for that Sparkling Crystal here, but the fact that they didn't Arven, I think, implies that it's going to be a little tough for them to find it. They do get to see a couple more cards. They didn't put too many on the bottom of their deck, so the likelihood of them finding Sparkling Crystal here feels a bit low, but, you know, if they're able to do it, they're able to do it, and that's not going to be very good for us. So we'll see. Our hand is looking okay. We're going to be able to KO the Fezandipiti this turn if we want to. Technically, we could win, right? There's a Counter Catcher, so they're going to hit for 70 on our Hoothoot. It's not what we like to see, but it does mean, in theory, that we can go into that Fezandipiti. We'll be able to draw some cards, and that's going to be pretty okay. We're still in a position to potentially win here. I am going to start by Prime Catchering up the Fezandipiti here, I think. There's a Night Stretcher. It's not necessarily useful right in this moment. If we had the Noctowl option, it would be a little bit better, but yeah, I think we're going to go after this Fezandipiti first and foremost. We will promote our turtle, and then I think I'm just going to quick search for a research here. I don't necessarily want to fill my bench. I would like to see that Fezandipiti. We could still win the game, so it feels a little bit greedy to go for that. We could Thorton. Do we have a Noctowl in here? No Noctowl, so it's not necessarily very helpful. So I think we are just going to go for the research. See if we can get something helpful. There's an Ultra Ball, a Rare Candy. That's the Dusknoir. We still need a bit, though. So we're going to go ahead and Ultra Ball away the Vitality Band as well as the Iono here. We are going to grab Fezandipiti, and we're looking for what? Night Stretcher Candy, and then the game is over, question mark? Not over. We would need a way to knock out the active as well. So we're going to need to hit some stuff, but still looking pretty good. It doesn't look like we are able to pull it off, though. We can Candy and knock out this Dracloak, which is okay. It'll put them down to 3 prizes, which they can't necessarily win this turn if they do that. I do think there's some value in just evolving into Dusknoir this turn and taking the knockout without using the Dusknoir. They do still have the Rotom in play, which is relevant. There's not really a way to finish this game, though. I don't have a Hoothoot for next turn, which feels a little tough. Can go ahead and attach to the bench here just to think a little bit further. They can't kill both of these either way. Really, Candy Dusknoir just plays around Iono. I do think it's probably worth it then if that's the goal. So we'll go ahead and Candy Dusknoir. I don't think we're going to use it here. I think we're just going to go ahead and Unified Beatdown, taking the knockout on the Fezandipiti. And then next turn, we can do something like Dusknoir pop this and knock it out. We could knock out the Rotom for game. We have plenty of ways to finish off should we need to. We can also Thorton one of these into Hoothoot and Noctowl should we need to. The downside to that is that all of our item gust is gone. And so if we do Thorton, we won't be able to use Boss. So if we're going to do it, it needs to be for the game here. I would imagine they're probably going to attack with Radzard, or they're going to go after both of our Dusknoirs. I think both of those are pretty reasonable plays for them to make. We'll see, though. There's a Nest Ball. Monkey Dory. Oh, that's really interesting, actually. That does allow them, in theory, to be able to finish this game, which is not great. I mean, we don't have any damage on their side of the field, so they don't have anything to move at the moment. They do go for that Iono. Doesn't necessarily eliminate Gust as an option for them. They can always just kind of counter catcher, right? But looks like they are looking for a Fire Energy still. Even if they find it, though, they would need counter catcher as well. There's the Magma Basin. Do they have a Fire Energy in the discard? No, there's no energy in there. They're going to be able to remove their own Rotom, though, which is pretty cool. Removing that liability, probably as well as the Manaphy. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. But it doesn't look like they have too much else going for him here. I wonder if they're just going to have to hit me for 70. If they are, it's not great. There's a Dracloak, so they may still be able to find a Fire Energy here. Could be problematic, but we'll see what they end up going for. If they can knock out my Terapagos, that might be the best play. I really think their best play is to KO both of these, but they need a lot to do that. There's the Earthen Vessel. Getting rid of the Arven. I wonder if that last card is Counter Catcher. If it is, we could pretty easily lose here. If that last card is Counter Catcher and they knock out both of our Dusknoirs. Now, it looks like it is Earthen Vessel, but they're going to be able to Magma Basin as well. Let's see. If they KO my Terapagos, there's the Dark Energy. Again, there's no damage on the field currently, but they are going to be able to get damage on the field here. They can pretty easily get damage on the board here, which is kind of scary. They can Magma Basin to the Charizard, attach the Dark to the Monkey Dory, and they'll have 20 extra damage, 20 extra damage from the Magma Basin to work with. So they could KO something like Fezandipiti with Dragapult, but again, I don't think they have double fire in hand, right? They did discard a Fire Energy off the first one, so it didn't look like did they get a Fire Energy off the second one? Yeah, they did. So they do have a Fire Energy in hand, so if they want to attack with Dragapult, they can. Unequivocally, they can. So we'll see what they end up going for here. I don't know what they drew off of that Clairvoyant Sense. They are going to Magma Basin to Zard. I assume that means they're attacking with Charizard. Yeah, no Fire Energy to Dragapult means that they are certainly attacking with Charizard here. They're going to move 20 damage. I wonder where. Probably to Fez, I would think. It makes the most sense to me. They could also... Oh. Okay, sure. They do move 20 to the Terapagos. And they're just promoting Dracloak. TM Devolution. Interesting. Okay, so they're going to Devo our Pidgeot as a way to try and stop themselves from losing the game. They also Devo our Dusknoir. Interesting. Okay, this is a really, really smart play from our opponent. We would have needed something like a Rare Candy off the top there. We can attach the double turbo. They're still at 4 prizes, so if we're able to hit like Rare Candy Night Stretcher, we still just win. But wow, what a smart play from them. Feather Ball doesn't do anything. We only play 1 Pidgeot here, so let's see what we can get. Rare Candy. Why did we only get 6 cards? Hello? We only got 6 cards. Would have been the area 0. I mean, that's not like the most helpful, right? We didn't have game at the very least. Oh, I shouldn't have done this. Oh, I shouldn't have done this. And I can't even bump the magma. I can't bump the magma basin because the stadium isn't in my hand. Oh no, are we gonna lose off of that? Dude. That's really tough. That's really, really tough. But if they're able to attack with the Dragapult this turn and move damage to us, like, what really can they do? They do need to discard a Fire Energy to be able to make it work. But we don't have our stadium. What are we supposed to do without the stadium? Okay, they do get a Psychic Energy. Clairvoyant Sense, probably going to this Dracloak here. Okay. Fire Energy on a Pult. They're going to go ahead and Phantom Dive. They're going to be able to take a KO here. But, I mean, they shouldn't, right? Yeah, they don't want to activate the Fezandipiti, which makes sense. It makes sense. And then they can just boss on the following turn. I mean, is there anything for me to do? I can't without Area 0, right? If I had Area 0 here, I would have just won the game. The Area 0 was supposed to be in my hand. So I would have just won the game. Because last turn I would have Nest Balled for the Hoothoot and then knocked out for boss and won the game. This is ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Oh my goodness. I can't believe we're losing this game. I'm counting that as a win. If TCG Live was a functional app, I would have won that game, but unfortunately, it's not. And so we're taking a loss there, but we're counting it as a win. We would have been able to Nest Ball for Hoothoot last turn, and then I could have just knocked out for boss's orders. And there's really not anything that they could have done about that. So we're going to count that one as a win, and we're going to move on to the next game. Now, we are hoping for another game that goes well for us. Obviously, the last game should have been a win for us, but due to some TCG Live shenanigans, we were not able to get there in the end. Invisible Area 0 Under Depths is unfortunately not a playable card in the canon of TCG Live, so hopefully we're done with glitches for the day. We can get a couple of good games here instead. Looks like we are going to... Were we heads or tails? They're heads, so it looks like we are going to have to go second here. Hopefully we get a decent hand, though. I get to go first. They choose to let me go first. Okay, so as long as we don't start a 2-prizer, that should be pretty solid for us. Not too many matchups are going to choose to allow us to go first, so I would assume that this is probably something like Raging Bolt. It could be, you know, Roaring Moon. It could be Miraidon. There may be a couple other decks that might choose second. It could be Charizard as well. I wasn't even looking at their sleeves, but could pretty easily be Charizard here too. Luckily, we did start with a Duskull, so if it is Charizard, no, it looks like there's a Squawkabilly. So I would imagine that this is some form of Turbo deck. We're going to go ahead. We're going to bench Pidgey. We are going to Nest Ball for the Fan Rotom. I'm going to make sure that I do not put a 2-prizer into play here. I do think I'm just going to go double Hoothoot and Fan Rotom so that I have an easy discard off of the Ultra Ball next turn. This feels pretty safe to me. It did look like we prized one of each Hoothoot and Noctowl, but yeah, grabbing the Fan Rotom here so we can discard it off of Ultra Ball next turn for the Terapagos. And let's see what we're against. Squawkabilly. Could be lots of things. Lots of stuff plays Squawkabilly right now. So let's see what they've got. Could be Raging Bolt. That would be my guess. I think most people are kind of playing Raging Bolt at the moment. There's a Radiant Greninja. It doesn't really tell us. Could still be Raging Bolt. Could still be Turbo Moon. There's a Pokestop. Once again, not really telling us much. Petrun TX. Okay, so it's looking like we're probably against the Turbo Roaring Moon deck. This matchup is pretty solid for us. Similar to the Raging Bolt. Getting rid of double Sada makes sense, I guess, to some extent because they did get that PAL pad off of the Pokestop. Grabbing a Pecharunt. Benching the Roaring Moon EX, and then going for PAL pad. Yeah, the one downside to this matchup that's kind of similar to the Raging Bolt matchup is that 230 is a little out of range for us. We do play that Vitality Band, so it is at least possible for us to hit 230 should we need to. If they knock out our Duskull here, we're not really that upset. They are going to be able to go ahead and concealed cards. I think ideally we would like them to take a knockout here so we can utilize the Fezandipiti EX. They do Trekking Shoe. Excuse me, choosing to keep the card. We'll see where it goes from there. Got quite a lot of cards. They still have not used a supporter. There's the Earthen Vessel, going to grab a couple of energy. Let's see what they discard. The second Squawk makes sense. They could also choose to Motivate here. They don't have too many energy in the discard pile, but I could imagine that that could change pretty quickly. They play lots of ways to discard energy. Ultra Ball, Earthen Vessel, lots of things, right? There's the Professor Sada. They are going to go ahead and attach one Dark to this Roaring Moon and draw 3. They've got lots of stuff in hand. I mean, if they can discard a Dark Energy, all they need is one Dark Patch, and then they can just attach for turn and attack. If they do miss, it puts us in an interesting spot where we can just kind of standard 2-2-2 without being necessarily concerned. They do go ahead and bench the Fezandipiti. There's another Dark Energy into play. And I wonder if they're just going to have to pass. Did they miss? They missed a way to discard that last energy, it looks like. Let's see. Yep, just going to go ahead and pass. So if we can pull off everything that we want to this turn, it's putting us in quite a good position. So we're going to go ahead and put Area 0 into play. We don't currently have a Terra Pokemon, so it doesn't necessarily fix too much for us. I definitely want to keep this. I think we're going to go ahead and get rid of Fezandipiti and Rotom here to grab that Terapagos EX. I'm going to go ahead and put Terapagos into play. We can Noctowl for the Candy and the Feather Ball, assuming they're in the deck. If they're not, we can still get some stuff. We could go like Prime Catcher Energy Loto. But I think we'd prefer to go, yeah, Feather Ball Candy. Is Pidgeot in the deck? That is also an important clarification. It looks like it is, so we're going to be able to go Feather Ball. We can grab the Rare Candy. Or grab the Pidgeot EX, play the Rare Candy. We're going to be able to Iono and then get 6 new cards. Right now, we need a double Turbo, as well as 2 bench Pokemon and a Gust in order to KO this Pecharunt. We're pretty close. We're pretty close. If we can get an energy off this Energy Loto, we are there, I think. But if not, we can always just take a knockout on the Squawk. Well, no, we can't, right? Uh-oh. Better hit. Okay. Never punished. So we do get that double turbo. I should have gotten a Hoothoot off the Buddy Poffin. I don't know what I was thinking. This is definitely wrong. But we can go ahead and bench the other Terapagos here. We're going to be able to quick search for Prime Catcher. And I'm just going to KO this Roaring Moon right off rip. We do have the Vitality Band to be able to do it, so why not, right? We can go ahead and bring this guy up. We can put our Terapagos in the active, and we completely eliminate all of their energy attachments for their first turn, which feels pretty strong to me. They'll probably be able to respond to this. Something that's awkward about the Roaring Moon matchup as well is that if they do choose to bump the Area 0 underdepths, it does force me to discard some stuff. Realistically speaking here, it would be a Fan Rotom, a Noctowl, and a Duskull that we would get rid of, but theoretically we could also win this game next turn, right? If we go double Dusknoir, pop something like Pecharunt or Fezandipiti, and then knock out one of the other ones, we're just winning the game right off that. So they are going to go ahead and Earthen Vessel, get a couple energies out of their deck. Makes sense. This is good sequencing. They're thinning the energy cards out of their deck before they are drawing because they don't want to draw into energy, right? It makes a lot of sense. So they're going to go ahead and use concealed cards first. See if they get something useful off of that. These decks don't play too much disruption. Some of the Turbo Moon lists will play something like Judge as a way to disrupt our hand, but we don't have a particularly big hand right now, so I don't know that it's worth it necessarily to go for a play like that. Something also of note is that we do have 230 HP, and the attack Calamity Storm only does 220 max, so they may have to Frenzy Gouging in order to KO us here. There's the Roaring Moon. It looks like they're probably going to be able to attack, but they could also just Frenzied Gouging the Pidgeot EX, trying to stop us from being able to do too much. They do bump our stadium, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of those cards that we said we would. The Noctowl, the Duskull, and the Fan Rotom. They play the Pokestop. There's the Prime Catcher. So, yeah, if they want the Pidgeot EX, they're going to be able to get it this turn. Not exactly what we want to see. I think we would, generally speaking, prefer to be able to keep our Pidgeot. It's a pretty good card, so we would certainly like to see it survive through this turn. But we'll see what they end up doing. It is a little bit scary for them, I think, to go Frenzied Gouging here, just because of how easy it is for me to respond to. But I don't know that they have a much better choice. This isn't doing enough yet. We've only taken 2 prizes, so it's only doing 120. Once we've taken 2 more prizes, they could theoretically attack us with that Petrorunt EX for a knockout on Terapagos. But for the time being, they do have to use the Roaring Moon EX. So let's see if they do go for that Prime Catcher. I would expect that they will. I think it makes the most sense for them to do. Looks like they're just going to use Pokemon Catcher first. If they flip Tails, then maybe they go for Prime. But yeah, it's going to leave the energy on our Terapagos, so it gives us the opportunity to at least play around this a little bit. Yeah, bringing up the Pidgeot just like we thought, trying to disrupt our consistency engine here. And they're going to be able to probably retreat. I don't think they've attached energy for turn yet. I believe they used double Dark Patch. No, it looks like they did. It looks like they did attach an energy already. So... oh, they've got Petrorunt, of course. They have Petrorunt. It's going to make it a little bit easier for them. There's the Professor Sadas. I kind of would have liked to have seen them hold one of these Dark Patches then. They did have another energy in there, so there's really not a reason not to. They could have had a second energy on this Roaring Moon if they had done that. But, you know, to each their own, They are going to go ahead and Frenzied Gouging, so we are guaranteed to be able to take this knockout this turn. We don't really need anything to accomplish that, so more than likely what we're going to end up doing is just benching Hoothoot and then Ionoing our opponent down to 4. They are probably going to be able to respond to that pretty easily. They've got the Fezandipiti, so it doesn't mean a whole lot, but if we can get some stuff going here. There's a switch, not too helpful in this exact situation. We're going to go ahead and Iono, see if we can get some good cards here. A Noctowl would be cool, but again, not really necessary by any means. We do get Candy Dusknoir here. We do also have a Noctowl in there, so if we Pokestop into Night Stretcher, I think we just win, right? I think that does mean it's worth it to go for a Pokestop here. We'll Pokestop, see if we can hit a Night Stretcher. We don't. Getting rid of a Noctowl there, not exactly what we want to see, but that's not too terrible. And then, yeah, we can just go for the 140 to take the knockout. I mean, what else would we do here? I don't think there's really much that we can, so we'll just go ahead and Unified Beatdown. We'll take the knockout. We'll go down to 2 prizes. Our opponent is likely to be able to respond to this, like I said, but unfortunately, we don't get that Night Stretcher there in order to get a Noctowl. We do have another Noctowl in the discard pile too. We didn't take the other one off the prizes either, so things are looking a little bit sketchy. If they do have something like the Iono or something like the Judge, we could pretty easily be in trouble here. It's not necessarily what we like to see. They can also attack us with Petrorunt. There's nothing really stopping them from doing that this turn. Petrorunt is quite a good attacker in this matchup because it's exactly 60 times for each prize card I've taken. That's 60 times 4. That's going to be 240, which is exactly enough for them to take the knockout. Luckily, they can't Subjugating Chains their own Petrorunt. It specifies that you can't move Petrorunt into the active spot. So it's not too terrible here. Drawing lots of cards. If they don't have Iono, I think we're feeling pretty safe. But even if they do, I mean, we have so many outs to Night Stretcher. We haven't used one yet. And so we could always get Fez back. We can get the Noctowl back. There's really not too much that we need in order to win the game. Realistically speaking, Candy Dusknoir should be enough as long as we also have a double turbo in order to attach. We just need a full bench without Stadium plus the Dusknoir. That will hit 260. So we don't even need a full bench. Just 4 bench Pokemon should be enough to accomplish that goal. So we'll see what they end up getting here. They do Ultra Ball away double Pokestop. So if they do choose to Calamity Storm here, they will be completely out of Stadium options, which I think is pretty good for us as well. So let's see what they go for. They have used Concealed. They have used Flip the Script. So I wonder if they've got something like a Lumineon V. They could use something like the Baby Roaring Moon to try and stall for a turn in order to get that KO in tandem with an Iono, right? If I go down to 1 prize, then okay, but it looks like they're just failing the Ultra Ball. It doesn't look like they have too much. Do they even have a way to attack this turn? That's the question. Let's see. If they can't disrupt us and they have to Frenzied Gouging, we will be able to just win by going Candy Dusknoir and popping it on that Roaring Moon. We'll be able to take a knockout that way, which is pretty good. It doesn't look like they're doing too much. I wonder if they saw that they have nothing and just decided to call it quits. We will see. We will see. The clock's ticking down here. It's looking more and more like maybe they've given up, which is fine with me. They do still have access to Pokestop. They haven't used that yet. They have 1 Dark Patch left. Have they attached for turn? No, this was Sada last turn, right? So they do have an energy in hand. If there's a Dark Patch left in deck, they can theoretically just attack me, right? There's not really anything stopping them from taking the knockout, and then it would force me to find a way to win. It does just look like they don't have it, though. We're going to be able to go ahead. Well, do we even have game? No, right? I have to Pokestop into Night Stretcher again? All right, there's the Night Stretcher. We're going to be able to Night Stretcher for a Noctowl here. We can Noctowl for the boss's orders. Candy, Dusknoir, KO something. Well, we won't KO anything, but we'll be able to put enough damage so that Terapagos will be able to finish the job. I do have Candy Dusknoir already in hand. Yes, I do. So we will go ahead. We will Candy into Dusknoir. We will boss's orders on the Roaring Moon EX. It is going to time out for a little bit because if they disconnected, it's going to force them to take a prize card. But once they take that prize card, then we will be able to take our final 2 prizes on this active Roaring Moon. So the Vitality Band already kind of showing just how valuable it has the potential to be in this deck. Adding that extra 10 damage right at the start of the game, allowing us to remove their energy from play, making it much harder for them to get all the things that they want because they have to reset up an attacker, right? So that Vitality Band really coming in clutch here. This isn't even the matchup that it's included in the deck for. It's mostly for Mirror. So the fact that it has applications outside of the Mirror matchup, I think says a lot of good things about the card as an inclusion. I would say actually Roaring Moon EX is probably the matchup that it is the least for. Things like Lugia, things like the Miraidon, where they have Iron Hands that's kind of just out of reach of the Terapagos attack. That Vitality Band can certainly come in clutch. So just waiting for their prize draw to time out here so that we can click Unified Beatdown. It looks like before they can take their prize, it's going to give me the win here. So let's go on to one more game and see if we can finish off strong. Final game here. Let's see if we can manage to take a win on this last one. Obviously, we would love to. We do win the coin flip, so we'll get to go first, which is great. Definitely preferable to go first in basically every matchup. The Raging Bolt matchup, presumably, like, you can choose to go second. You're a little bit more likely to set up if you choose to go second because you can utilize your supporters. Doesn't really make a difference in terms of prize mapping whether they go first or second for us. They'll still be forced through a one prizer. It makes it a little bit more likely that they'll be able to force us through a one prizer, but realistically that's not a huge deal. Looks like we hit something with a Cornerstone Ogerpon in it. Not quite sure. It could be Snorlax. Could be a few different things. I think we're going to kind of just get a normal-ish setup here. I don't think we're too afraid to bench a Terapagos here. I think we want to play around this being Snorlax. And if we're playing around it being Snorlax, then we definitely want to bench the Terapagos. So we will put that into play. Theoretically, I could have, like, used Area 0 to get an extra Duskull, but I don't think it's necessarily worth it right this moment. I think I would rather just get a little bit more set up here. I'm going to grab 2 Noctowls. I want to leave 2 in the deck in case we get Iono'd or judged. Yeah, and we will pass it over to them. If this is something like Raging Bolt with Cornerstone, it's going to be a rude awakening for us, but otherwise it should be okay. If it is Snorlax, them starting Cornerstone is generally pretty good for us. And there's the Mimikyu, so I think it's pretty safe to assume we are against either Snorlax or Control. They do Misfortune, don't hit the Prime. Don't hit the Prime. They get 1 Candy, 1 Ultra Ball. Pretty okay, not a huge deal. Technically, we could win this turn. So that's definitely what we're going to try and do here. We do get an extra Hoothoot. So what do I need to win? I need Candy Dusknoir, and I need a full bench to KO this. So we can go Noctowl for Jewel Seeker. We can go, if I go Candy Pidgeot. What are the cards I need? So I can go Candy Pidgeot. I need Pidgeot here. Not necessarily. This could get me Switch plus Poffin. I think no matter what, I'm going to have to play like a research here. So I want to just set myself up as much as possible for that. So I do need an energy. Well, okay, if I need a research here anyway, I think it might just be best to go Feather Ball Candy, because then I can flex based off what I get off the research. I can go the second Noctowl for Switch Research. And then go from there. Is my Pidgeot in deck? Let's check. It is. I think this is probably the safest play, is to go like this. We can go Feather Ball. Candy Feather Ball. And I can use that second Noctowl for Switch plus Research. And then, you know, try and base the rest of the play off of what I get. Because honestly, even just getting a knockout on the active here is pretty good. They didn't do too much on their first turn, so I feel like we're in a pretty good spot regardless. I'm going to go ahead and grab a second Duskull here. We're not generally pressured by Snorlax, so we'll go for the switch. I'm going to go into Pidgeot. We're going to play Research, and I'm looking for DT, Candy, Dusknoir, Poffin. DT, Poffin, Dusknoir. So we're going to be able to dog. Honestly, what a fantastic way to end this video. I think not much better to show just how powerful this deck is. We're going to go ahead and Rare Candy into that Dusknoir. We are going to Cursed Blast the benched Mimikyu, taking the knockout there, and then we'll be able to fill our bench. And we can attach the double turbo and take the knockout on the opponent's active because we don't have an ability on our Terapagos. So a great way to end the video. I mean, I'm kind of surprised to see us doing so well without the Briar. I feel like Briar's a pretty crucial part of the deck. We don't have any Pokemon in there, so it's a good thing we got this Night Stretcher, or else we would lose here, but not lose, but not win. So then we can go back into that Terapagos. We can Unified Beatdown for 220, and we'll finish the game in 2 turns. If that's not a display of how much power this deck has behind it, I don't know what is. So once again, I want to give a massive shout out to Giovanny for being able to pilot Terapagos Dusknoir to a first place finish at the Lima SPE. I want to thank all of you for watching. If you want to comment down below whether or not you liked that beginning deck list style a little bit better, I'd really appreciate it. You can leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next one.